because I always longed for that growing up because I never had that. So it's very, when you look back, it starts to make sense of how love languages and just other things connect and intertwine and cross over.
It seems like this is a 360-degree analysis of love languages, but it doesn't make any sense to me yet, because if you had a love language neglected growing up, you're probably going to crave that more. But if you had it in abundance, yeah, maybe you won't care that much about it.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode number 1407. Some of our most valuable traits are the ones we're most scared of. Today, for episode number 1408, happy Tuesday, what do your love languages say about you? I came across a post on social media the other day, and I don't know who it was from. I don't think it was any big influencer or expert or anything like that. But the thought behind the post was the opposite of your love languages are potentially your sabotaging traits. That was kind of the thought process behind this post.
Self-sabotage.
Self-sabotage, yeah. Sabotaging traits, self-sabotage. So maybe the opposite of love languages is sabotage activities, practices. I don't know. And when I saw it, I said, that would be a really interesting episode where you and I can just kind of jam on that and see what comes up. So what it said in this post, and I don't remember the exact thing because I scrolled away from it, went and did something else, and then I thought of it later of, that may make a valuable episode for the audience. Then I couldn't find it again. So I don't remember exactly what it was. I have to do a better job of giving people credit, but this was not my idea. So the thought process was, if one of your love languages is receiving gifts, one of the things that you might struggle with is purchasing yourself things that you know you might not be able to afford and or don't need, because you're almost fulfilling your own love languages if you don't have somebody else doing it. Words of affirmation could be negative self-talk, because one of the reasons you need words of affirmation is maybe you don't have a high level of self-worth and you talk about yourself in a negative frame. So that could be the opposite of what you actually need. Quality time, reclusiveness. So if you're somebody who needs quality time and that's one of your top love languages, maybe one of the things you do when you're not getting that is be reclusive. And then,
or just to real quick,
please.
Or when you are, maybe you struggle to spend quality time with yourself. I've seen that in Conscious Couples podcasts, relationship talks, coaching. I've seen a lot of the people who crave quality time the most are usually the ones who struggle to find quality time themselves. So for you, Kev, the me date thing that we did an episode on recently, you love that.
Yeah, big fan.
Yeah, huge fan. So imagine a time in your life where all you were doing was spending time with your partner and you weren't having quality time with self. So if you want, I think what's happening here, and I was sorry to interrupt you, but I think what's happening here is that we're trying to fulfill the love that we're not giving to ourselves, which would make sense. That you complete me, the soul's recognition of its counterpoint in another, yin and yang, opposites attract. These love languages are designed to fulfill us, and it would make sense that we are craving the things that we don't feel fulfilled in.
Yeah.
So anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Continue.
No. I don't know, and maybe I could ask you this. You'd probably have a better handle on this than I. Acts of service, I believe the opposite of that was almost unintentional living, where you love when somebody thinks of you and like does an act of service, whatever it is, taking out the trash, doing the dishes, whatever, drawing a bath, whatever it may be. But for you value that because you don't really know how to do that for yourself. Maybe like you don't really understand how to fill your own cup, so you're hoping somebody else can do it. So when you don't get that met, maybe you just live kind of unintentionally. Just going through the motions, scrolling, whatever it is. The physical touch one, I don't know what they said about physical touch. The opposite of desiring. So if you desire physical touch, I don't know what the opposite of that would be. Obviously not desiring it, but I don't know how that would show up in a potentially, I don't want to say negative, but less than ideal situation. I'm not sure.
A sabotaging thing,
Yeah.
you mean?
Yeah, I don't know really what that would be.
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess it would be.
I've never contemplated this before. This is a first for me.
That's why I wanted to do this. Because I don't, again, am I confident that the entire episode is going to be perfect and we're not going to make any mistakes and say, oh, I've never thought of that? Definitely not. This isn't one of those episodes. This is one of those episodes where I said, wow, I've never really thought about that either. Let me see what we can do on the microphones in order to create some sort of interest, curiosity, breakthroughs. You and I know, will learn about something, and the goal is, if you're watching or listening, you say, hopefully the same thing. I've never really thought about that before. Interesting. I love giving gifts so much because I never received gifts. Oh, I didn't realize that about myself. Okay, well, do you think that
You're
has
not
something...
talking about you?
No, not specifically.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Do you think that's why every time I see something nice, I want to buy it for myself? Because I'm trying to meet that need for myself. Not me. Again.
I would say it makes sense that, let's go a deeper layer. At all times, 24/7, 365, we all are trying to go through this life meeting our needs, meeting our desires, avoiding our fears, quite frankly. And usually your desires are in the opposite direction of your fears. So if you're afraid of being poor, you're going to desire being wealthy. If you're afraid of being alone, you're going to desire being around people, having lots of friends, whatever it is. And so these fears and desires, when it comes to love languages, you got to figure our love languages that we crave the most is probably predicated on the ones we're the least effective at meeting for ourselves, and or the ones we didn't get growing up. So, for example, but then again, there's nuances too, because you and I didn't spend a ton of quality time necessarily with our families, but I wouldn't consider that my top love language. But well, maybe we got good at quality time with ourselves. You know?
I almost wonder if it's like whatever the thing that becomes normal for you is almost becomes the thing that you desire most. For me, there wasn't. I mean, I don't remember at what age, but we stopped eating dinner together fairly young. So we didn't have family dinners. I'd go upstairs and eat. My mom and grandmother would eat in the living room and watch TV. I would eat upstairs, watch TV. That happened pretty early. I didn't really... A lot of my life, Alan, in the beginning, I didn't really have a lot of quality time with people at all, especially during the week. For me, a lot of the time it was I would go to the gym, oftentimes by myself. I'd work. We're talking like 18-year-olds, Kev. I'd go train jiu-jitsu. I'd go home. I'd eat dinner and go to sleep and then rinse and repeat the next day. There wasn't a lot of that. On the weekends, I might see people, but when I became a quote-unquote adult, I really stuck to myself a lot.
Yeah. In relationships, how come you overswung so much? Because you've talked about in the past how in your relationships you'd end up spending all your time with your partner.
I think low self-worth. I was so grateful to have somebody that desired me that I didn't want to do anything to wreck that.
Well, maybe that's predicated on you're so used to not having someone who wants to spend time with you. That's
possible. But here's the other thing. I don't know if I've ever told this story before on the podcast. When I was not in high school. Probably, I don't know, 19? When do you go to college?
So you usually graduate between 17 and 18, and then usually you're a freshman in college around 19.
So I was probably 19 or 20 at this point. And the person I was dating, her mom abandoned her. Literally moved from Massachusetts to another state and just left her. Like completely bailed on her. And there was a lot of things behind the scenes going on. I won't get into those. But at one point she lived in a trailer park, or not even a trailer park, a camper in somebody's backyard. And I used to go over there and spend the night. And I pretty much lived with her for a while. Then when her mom left, she ended up moving in with us. So here I am, 20 years old. And I go to my mom and grandmother and say, hey, my girlfriend doesn't have anywhere to go. My girlfriend and her dog don't have anywhere to go. Can she move in with us? And they're like, yeah. I mean, if she has nowhere else to go, it's not ideal. We don't really want you sleeping with your 18, 19-year-old girlfriend every single night, but it is what it is. So she ended up moving in. And I think for me, that was something that happened way too quickly. And I was not, I mean, we shared the same bedroom and we slept together every single night. And I don't think I was capable of handling that at that age. So I think that probably skewed some things too. So I throw that out there because I did not think of that until this very moment from this perspective. And this is why having deep conversations and podcasts, whatever it is so powerful, because it can potentially draw up old things that you haven't thought of in a minute. I haven't thought of that in a long ass time. And now I'm thinking, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I didn't have any, we had the same bedroom. There's nowhere else to go. Bedroom, I mean, it wasn't we had a duplex with my family. It wasn't a big place. It's 2-bedroom. So I wonder if that is one of the reasons. I told Taryn this because we've been talking about getting a home. We've been talking a lot about that. And I said, honestly, I don't care as long as I have a place where I can build a movie theater. AKA, like, just get a big TV and get a comfortable chair. I just want to have a movie theater where I can turn the volume up as loud as I want and nobody's going to say anything. Because I always longed for that growing up because I never had that. So it's when you look back, it starts to make sense of how love languages and just other things connect and intertwine and cross over.
Well, you got to figure in life, whatever you have deep pain connected to, you've got to figure you are trying to optimize and design a life. You're trying to figure out how to get out of that pain. I often used to say the deep, dark holes we find ourselves in, the tools and skills necessary to climb out of those actually also build skyscrapers. And what I mean by that is, and you've heard other quotes, adversity is your advantage. Every failure has the equivalent or greater benefit. Failure way to success, that kind of stuff. But when you look at it from this frame, we're all wired from pain and pleasure. We're all wired from success and failure. We're all wired from winning and losing. We're all wired from love and not love. And if you did have certain love that wasn't given growing up, obviously you're going to crave that more as an adult. But the other side of that too is fascinating, because what if you were always given love in this way and you're used to receiving that love? It's going to be hard when your partner isn't wired for that. So for example, if you grew up and your mom or dad always cooked for you, and then you are in a relationship where that's not necessarily the case, are you going to have withdrawals from that? And I do believe food is a love language. We have, I told Kev, I wanted to plug this, for lack of better phrasing. At Conscious Couples Podcast, we have developed the 25 conscious love languages. Goals and dreams are in there. Vulnerability is in there. Understanding one's trauma is in there. Food, love language for sure. Fitness is another love language. I know a lot of people have trouble in their relationships when their partner doesn't like fitness as much as them. Very, very challenging. I've been there. But again, I don't have any answers on this episode. What I would say, none whatsoever. I've never once contemplated this, but I do think it would make sense. We're all trying to meet our needs. We're all trying to be full cups. We're all trying to grow. And just like a tree needs water, rain, sunshine, whatever, soil, whatever it's neglecting, meaning if it's not getting any rain, it's obviously going to be craving rain. If it's got nice soil, it's going to be good there. Don't need more of that. So I guess we can all kind of look at the lens. And I guess for a practical tip for our listeners, what are the top 3 things that you do crave in a relationship? And why might that be? Is that because you're not doing that for yourself? Never buying a gift for self or whatever it is? Or is that because you were neglected growing up? Or is that because growing up you always got that and now you don't?
Or you always got it and now you don't need it. I wonder if that's another layer.
Hello, my name is Eddie Pinero. I'm the founder of Your World Within, and I wanted to take a second and just express how valuable working with Alan has been. His ability to help me create clarity and maintain focus on my big picture goals has been huge. You know, he's been a huge asset with the roadmap as well, the day-to-day things, the little things that we sometimes overlook. I think anyone looking to, grow themselves, grow a business or both, would truly benefit from having Alan as an ally along the way. Again, great mind, but more importantly, solid dude.
Taryn, and so we went to see some friends this weekend, and we had a fire. And at one point, I was like standing with the fire poker or something, and everybody was like, you're in like really good shape right now. You look really good. And for me, it's just, I was like, thank you so much. I've been working really hard, but that doesn't really do anything for me. I don't need that. It doesn't really, I'm grateful. I appreciate it, but I don't need that. I don't need somebody to tell me I look good.
What would do it for you?
Oh, man.
You look wicked tall right now, brother.
That would help. Have you grown?
Do I?
in terms of words of affirmation?
Yeah, and or in general. Like, what would do it for you? Because I understand what you're saying. It's, okay, thank you. I seriously, thank you.
Right.
It's not that important to you, Although it is. That's the other thing. You're used to being complimented for that.
I'm used to being complimented for it. It's not. It's almost something that has just become somewhat normal. It's normalized for me now. And I mean that very humbly. I'm grateful. I'm grateful that it is. But it doesn't move me like somebody else who maybe just went on a fitness regimen for the first time, and people are saying, wow, you look like you've been crushing it in the gym. They might say, oh my goodness, I've never heard that before. That's the best thing ever.
Yeah,
I can completely understand that.
For sure.
If somebody complimented me on, I don't know, I get a lot of compliments on the business. And
what about being smart? If someone was like, wow, you're like really smart, would that be a big deal for you?
Definitely more than the fitness thing.
Right, because that's not what you're used to.
Mm.
Well, that's why I can't really, I don't want to say can't, I haven't drawn any real strong conclusions here because it seems like this is a 360-degree analysis of love languages, but it doesn't make any sense to me yet because if you had a love language neglected growing up, you're probably going to crave that more. But if you had it in abundance, maybe you won't care that much about it.
You might not need it.
Right.
That's why I titled the episode, What Do Your Love Languages Say? I swallowed a coffee ground. What do your love languages say about you? Because that really is, after we get off these microphones, it's going to be a really important thing for you to think about. A lot of the things that I don't desire are the things that I've always had, or I just never desired. Interesting. I don't know if that... Go ahead. You had a breakthrough of some sort?
I did have a breakthrough. So the one that I care about most, when Emilia and I first got together, we were analyzing love languages. We read the book, and the top 5 are the ones that everyone, I don't want to say everyone knows, but most people know, which is words of affirmation, gift giving, acts of service, physical touch, and quality time. And we were going through them because we wanted to understand each other's, and it was like, no. We had deep conversations was our number one, both of us. At the beginning of our relationship, number 1 was deep conversations. Now, we took them off the list. We took deep conversations off the list because we've gotten to the point now where it's like, we need to R&R. Because all we do is deep conversations now. I don't want to say all we do, but it's natural. It comes naturally. You and I are always having deep conversations, Kev. Emilia and I are always having deep conversations. I think that I craved deep conversations, and so did she, because in past relationships, we didn't really have a partner who cared that much about that. They lived a little bit more on the surface, a lot of it more on the surface. And we're not quite as hyper-conscious. And they didn't really want to have deep conversations. They would maybe appease it, but they weren't into it. And with her and I, after years and years and years, it was like, oh, yeah, no, we are good here. We don't need to work on this. This is going to be there no matter what forever. This is who we are. But at the beginning, it was like, I remember our check-ins sometimes were 6 hours straight because we just craved it so deeply because it went so neglected for so long. Last piece of this. I was asked a question on a relationship talks coaching call. The female in the relationship is being promoted to a general manager of a franchise. Awesome. And she said, leadership, I need help me. Talk to me. What do I do? How do I become a better leader? And dude, I steamrolled the whole call with like everything I could think of in leadership, because I've been studying leadership for decades. Yeah. I've been studying leadership for decades. Definitely.
You're old. You're old as shit at this point. So that's
a
possible.
fact.
Yeah, that's possible. I had that moment too where I was like 34. No, that's actually possible that you've been studying this for decades.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's been I've always studied leadership. Always. Yeah. I didn't realize that's what I was doing, and that's not necessarily what I always called it. But anyways, the point is, Emilia's like, whoa, you are obviously neglected in this area. You want to teach this so badly. She said, it's very clear no one's ever asking you about leadership. And it's like, yeah, probably not. I don't think I talk that much about leadership. I remember I gave a speech once on it, and it was to high school kids. So in hindsight, I'm sure I brain dumped a little too heavily. But my point with this whole thing is the parts of us that we're neglecting or that we feel suppressed in are probably connected to what we crave more of. Just like deep conversations is what we craved at the beginning of our relationship, but we don't anymore. I'm not like, that cup's overflowing now. I don't need more deep conversations. I mean, I feel good. I feel good about that. Yeah.
It's almost like I get too many deep conversations from you.
Yeah.
I'm used to it at this point. Music's an interesting love language for me. I love music.
God, that's not even on our list.
I don't know if you could ever make an all-encompassing list. There's just too many things.
I know.
There's too many activities.
But music should probably be on there.
You could put art. Art would encompass music.
Music/art or something.
Theater, movies.
Yeah, art, artistic creativity, something like that.
That's one of the reasons you and I were talking about this earlier. We were talking about how there are certain things Alan and I just never will connect on. And because we don't connect on them, we'll never talk about the intricacies of them. So one of the people we saw this weekend is a big music fan. Just loves old school, all sorts of music, classical music, 90s rap, 2000s rap, hard rock, all these things. And we were sitting out by the fire listening to music, and him and I were talking about music. And there are certain conversations with him that just lit me up that I will never have with you. Just like there's certain conversations about things you'll never have with me.
Mm-hmm. Movies you've never seen.
And I'm never going to at this point. There's a lot of them that I'm just never going to go back and see. I'm just never going to go back and see. Be very, very conscious of how you feel when you have those conversations.
Definitely.
Taryn and I have very different musical tastes. She struggles to hear the lyrics in rap songs, where I hear,
of course,
I hear all of them.
Yeah.
I hear them. There are some songs that I've never heard before that I can predict what they're going to say based on the line before. In terms of like, what's the last word they're going to rhyme? I can usually pick it out, depending on the person. Some people that are way above my head, but a lot of the people I can. But I love music. I love writing. I love that. I love it. Combat, right? I just texted my buddy Brian, who I recently met through Taryn, who loves UFC. I said, hey, big card Saturday if you want to come over. That lights me up. It lights me up to have somebody come over for that, because there's very few people in my life who really, really care about it. Now, again, I'm not going to say UFC is a love language, but whatever it is, supporting
one's passions,
right? I guess that's a piece of it. So again, full transparency, we have episodes like this where we get off and Alan will say, hey, was that even any good? Should we even drop that episode? Because I feel like we didn't know what we were talking about. And I say often, sometimes the fact that you and I are just philosophizing is the value of the episode, because hopefully if you're watching or listening, you can philosophize with us. Anything in closing?
For sure. Next level nuggets. We'll try to come up with a little something.
Man. My next level nugget would be ask yourself, so Alan listed the 5, right? Maybe the 5 most common, or the 5 that were in the book. There are definitely many, 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 many more. If you had to come up with your own list that wasn't just those 5, what would you come up with? Because you might have things in there that you've never given yourself permission. That music thing is very new to me. We were today you and I were in a meeting, and I said, just give me a sec, man. I had an inkling. I have to do something. The producer guy I follow, Kyle Beats, he's been doing these videos where he's giving people a shot to rap on his beat, and if you get picked, you go on his YouTube channel. And at the last one I watched, all the guys were not good, and 2 of them could not get him a song in time. And I was like, I need to apply for this. Because if he says yes to me, I'll stay up all night to record the song. That is a non-issue for me. I just want to get chosen. There's a piece of me that wants that because I want to be more in a music community. That's it. I just have that longing. And I never really knew that. When you spend as much time in front of a microphone as I do, it makes sense to start making words rhyme over a beat at some point. So I just want to share that.
Well, that's just it, right? So, but you've been writing and rapping and listening to rap for your entire life.
I have been writing since I was in high school. I've been writing for 15 years. I just never did anything with it because I was afraid. I was afraid of judgment.
I would say that's my next level nugget. I used to ask this at the end of every hyper-conscious interview. We used to interview guests all over the world. I always asked, we each had our own 2 questions at the end. Kevin's was, what do you want to accomplish before you die? Mine was, we grow, we evolve, we adapt, we change. The only thing that never changes is change. But there's something about us. I'm going to contradict myself here. There's something about us that never changed. What about you never changed? And that's my next level nugget. What about you never changed? Because Kevin was rapping in high school. I was talking about starting a business when I was 14 years old. I also had a little online marketplace where I sold items in a digital game called Diablo 2. And it's like, now that's a big deal now. Back then, that was... So if you've ever heard of an NFT, it's just wild to look back on that was before anyone was doing that. That was before World of Warcraft. That was before esports was big. But I was just a little kid. I remember I made money. It's cool. I sold accounts. I had a little e-commerce business before e-commerce
hustle
was a thing. It's so weird, right? And so you just got to explore your past, explore your passions. What about you never changed? And maybe from the frame of love languages. That's it.
I'm glad we did this one. I like these. I know you don't. I can tell. You get in. There's a certain point where we get to where you're like, oh no, this is.
I don't have any answers.
That's
okay. That's okay.
Yeah, sometimes we don't have to have the answers. I want when you listen to this and you go away and you're going to figure out your answers better than we can anyway. Now, there's a lot of things we can guide on or we can lead on in the podcast, but if you and I are learning in the episode, it's usually a good opportunity for everybody else to learn along with us. So I'm glad we did it.
And when you say that there's a point where I don't like it, what it really is discomfort of contemplation. What you're seeing me do is, in real time, I have too much to process, and I want to go do that rather than
take a walk.
No. Take a walk. All right, I'll be back in 5. But that's what it is these are contemplative episodes where what you see as me not enjoying it, no, I am enjoying it. I just don't know what any of it means yet. And for me, I'm searching. Emilia always says that too. She's like, are you good? It's like, I'm processing 8,000 things right now. I want to understand.
I already processed not a lot of it, but I came up with, right, anytime. So for the listeners, I'm the one who comes up with all the episodes, most of the episodes. Mm-hmm. And I've already had a week-ish, 4 or 5 days to process this. Where at least
it's better than my 4 or 5 minutes.
Right. So that's why I always know. It's just like, we're going to get through it. We're going to continue. And I when I say you don't like it, I know you don't. It's not that you don't enjoy it. I know that you're in your head trying to figure out everything.
It's outside my comfort zone. Yeah.
Well, that is where we grow, and I'm grateful you're willing to do it live in front of an international audience. Next Level Nation. As we have mentioned many, many, many times before, and we will continue to mention many, many times in the future, we have a private Facebook group called Next Level Nation, and a lot of our audience is looking for growth-minded people, right? Alan and I, one of the reasons we started this whole thing is because we wanted more growth-minded people. We wanted more people who We're passionate about self-improvement and deep conversations and self-awareness. If that is you and you're struggling to find people, please join our private Facebook group, Next Level Nation. You can find a peak performance partner. You can find friends. You can find direction. There's many things in there. It's totally free. And the reason it is private is because we want to keep you safe from judgment, people that you don't want to see what you're doing. That really is one of the things and the big reasons why it's private.
Next Level University has created, if you haven't heard, I know many of you have, but for our new listeners, has created an app called Optimal. It's a habit tracker. So what you do is you go in and you have what's called a MIM, a most important measurement. That's one thing. So days tracking habits, for example, is a good example. So 5 days, 6 days, you can just count a streak, whatever streak you want to do. And then there's red light, yellow light, green light. So here's your 3 habits. Did you do it? Did you not? Or did you do half of it? So if you want to check out the app, we also at the end, we have something called a MIW and an MII, most important win, most important improvement. So my most important win from yesterday, amazing adventure with Emilia Tucker and Tariel. Most important improvement, get more of the little important things done, get back to the fundamentals of the compound effect. So that's just a simple way to stay on track. A lot of us feel lost and directionless and like we're struggling. And this app just keeps you on track. It can be your compass, so your phone in your hand, track your habits each day, and you'll feel much better about where you're headed. And then you can kind of tweak as you go. So the link will be in the show notes. Check that out. And if you have any questions, reach out.
Tomorrow for episode number 1409, is your social media serving you? Alan and I have been practicing something behind the scenes, very coincidentally at the same time, that we will talk about in tomorrow's episode. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Get to know thyself. Next Level Nation.